the light bulb moment and the freedom that came with it, and the like, oh my gosh, I could do anything at this point, like make anything, and like
such a cool feeling too.
Right?
Just like, oh, no way.
Right.
This new door just opened up. Moment of silence for all those who suffer with latency issues.
Hi, my name is Sheran.
Hi, my name is Ben.
And this is the Creative Odyssey Podcast.
We're here to talk about the creative process.
The good,
the bad,
and the ugly.
But more importantly,
we're here to create together.
Whether you're a creator, a dreamer,
or just curious about the creative process,
explore with us
as we figure out what it means to be creative
and build a community
that celebrates the creative journey. Let's get started.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining us for episode 2. I've cut my hair. We've changed our name.
Yes.
So I know it's been a little bit since we recorded the other one, but for you, it's been just a couple of seconds if you jumped over from our first one. So I do appreciate you coming back. We are going to talk a little bit about the journey of being a creative today. And I think the question that we're going to ask ourselves, or that so many people have asked themselves, is, are we a creative? Or how do you know that you're a creative? And I think that's something that a lot of people don't know the answer to. So we kind of want to talk through that today.
It's a question a lot of people think about. And in my experience, find out that a lot of people just talk themselves out of like recognizing themselves as a creative for whatever personal experience they have gone through. Because like usually it feels like it's creative. A creative is defined as a musician or an artist.
Right.
Usually.
Yeah.
But the realities, which I learned later on in life, was creativity comes in different, many forms. Like
so many different forms.
Even if you're a painter, even a problem solver, creative problem solver.
Right there, the word's in it. And so many people don't think that they're a creative, but really it can be so many different aspects that can define creativity.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
Okay.
And let's actually go down the memory lane. And when did little Ben figure out that he was a creative?
Well, let's see. So I think I didn't know it at the time, obviously, but my earliest memory is, I believe, and this is obviously based off of my mom's recollection, and I do kind of remember some really early memories, but the thing that is super vivid in my mind is I was young enough to be able to reach up to the piano. So if I'm reaching up to the keyboard, I must be, like a couple feet tall, if that.
Yeah.
So I think I was 2 or 3. And I just remember playing 2 notes. And I was like going, da-da-dun, dun, da-da-da-da-dun, dun, dun. Like groundbreaking stuff, right?
You remember this, huh?
I remember this because not only did my mom bring it up a couple times, but I remember coming up with lyrics. Like there was something that I don't know why it was in my head, but I must have been playing with a hammer on some toy set, or I had watched some show, and the name that I came up was with a great big hammer. And so that was my first song that apparently I ever wrote, and that's one of my main outlets of creativity is musical creation, playing, production, design. I just love everything about not only just music, but sound in general. I will spend maybe even days designing sounds to be in a song that I make. So, but anyways, back to the old story. That was something that I think I remember the memory, if that makes sense, instead of actually recalling the actual event. But that was probably when I was 2 or 3 that I started down my musical creativity path. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. What about you?
Actually, here's the thing. Before we get to me, I really want to know another time. Okay, let's be honest. That's cute.
Sure. Yeah.
But
a 2-year-old writing a 2-note song. No,
but it's actually really, really awesome. But I think for our listeners' sake and for my sake, I think when was the next time? Were you much older when you recognized? How did that process looked like,
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're a kid, so at that point you don't,
You're not going to know.
Yeah, how did that work out? Like, when
Yeah.
did you next get into the creative process? I guess.
So this is like fast forwarding probably 10, 15 years. I can't remember exactly, but I do know the date that my dad purchased a synthesizer for my mom so she could record music for her. She was a homeschooling group band director and choir director, and she would always do these performances, and she would need backup music for it. And so my dad bought her this for Christmas. And on this thing, this is going back to, I think, 1990 or 91.
Okay.
So this is going way back, right?
Wow.
This was by Ensoniq, but the synthesizer included the ability to record music with their MIDI musical instruments.
Yeah.
The wonderful music
Wow.
MIDI instruments. For those of you who know the MIDI instruments, it's quite, the sounds are just, they're not that great. But anyways, I love that thing. I would spend like every moment that I could recording something, either playing, figuring out what sounds were where on the keyboard.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Right, yeah. When you're diving into, like, just when you have something new that you get to play with and discover that it's not only just cool that it's new, but it's like it's right there in your creative path. And it was just, I don't know, it was just so alluring to me that I would spend so many hours on it daily. And I do remember taking the time to recreate The Little Mermaid's Under the Sea.
Under the sea.
There was a sound on there that was like exactly the same. So I was like, I got to do it. It ended up, I think there was a big issue with data and the whole thing ended up getting erased. Which
Oh, no.
I don't have it, but it was fun. I spent a couple days on recording it and it was a blast to do. And it just, that just solidified how much I enjoy not only just music, but the writing process of putting down music, notes, sounds, all stuff like that. So that was probably when I would say, maybe 10 to 13 years old, something like that. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. I can definitely relate to like going through a keyboard or a synthesizer and like checking all the sounds they have and all the demo songs they have.
Yeah, all the demo songs, jamming out to the demo songs.
It was so much fun.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The Casio sounds or the drum beats.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that when you played?
Oh yeah. And then the funny thing is like for some reason I thought it was a cop out and like in sense of as opposed to actually playing drums.
Yeah.
But then I realized as I got older, like people actually make music. They play the drums on the keyboard.
I know.
And they make music.
Oh, dude! In today's day and age, it's like 90% of the drums that we hear. Like,
and half the time, people don't even like play. They just map it on the thing on the software.
It all started with that ridiculous Casio.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that was cool.
So what was your first memory as a creative that you can think of now? Obviously, back then you probably didn't realize it.
Yeah. So I think my parents figured out I was creative because my mom and her mom, they're all musical. So my grandmother was a music teacher, piano teacher. She was one for like 40 years. And,
wow. Okay.
And my mom, obviously, 4 girls in the family, they all learn music. My mom was a teacher. She was teaching at home. My grandma was a teacher. She was teaching at home. And so they forced me to learn classical music, playing piano. Again, not interested whatsoever. But I was good enough that I would do exams or like certain certifications. And I wouldn't get A, but I would get like a B. And I was happy with it because I would barely practice. Like I would literally practice the way somebody would cram for an exam, pretty much.
That's hilarious.
Right. Like, because again, I had no interest whatsoever in sight reading and doing all of that stuff.
I hear that, man.
The best part, I think, was just spending like years with my grandma. Like since I was 5 years old, I would spend till 17 playing piano with my grandmother. Like that's something I just realized that's super cool. I just made that connection.
Really cool. Yeah.
I just made that distinction in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, because she was the one who actually talked to me about faith and Jesus. Like there was this thing, like no matter what religion the kid was, my grandmother would talk about Jesus, and every time she would talk about Jesus, it's so hysterical because she would like cry.
Really?
Yeah, no, she would, because she's like,
Wow,
she was
super
so
emotional,
overwhelmed by God, and like, because she had a alcoholic husband and 4 girls who she couldn't go to church. Like they had to sneak out because he would wake up late on Sunday morning and they'll be back home, like that kind of stuff, right?
Wow.
And he died much younger, and like 4 girls and all of that stuff. So, yeah, so they made me play. But the moment I realized, like, oh my gosh, I might be actually creative, was I heard a guy at school playing Drops of Jupiter by Train on the piano. Mm-hmm. And I was like watching him just like play without any notes. And for some reason, this concept was so...
Like play without any... Like sheet music?
Sheet music, because up until that point, that's all I did. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, like
brand new to you.
It never occurred to me that I could just. I know I played around, but it never occurred that, or I even thought of that I could actually do it, like make a song, play a song, even. So when I heard that guy playing it, I'm like, that doesn't sound that hard for some reason. And so I went home and I had a upright piano in my house, and I just started playing, and all of a sudden I figured it out. Oh my gosh, man. The light bulb moment and the freedom that came with it, and the like, oh my gosh, I could do anything at this point, like make anything, and like...
It's such a cool feeling too.
Right?
Just like, no way. This new door just opened up.
Exactly. And so that led on to like, whenever my dad was a pastor, so whenever they would go for a Bible study on a Friday night or something like that, as I would get older, like 12, 13, 14, I just was like rebellious. I'm like, I'm not coming to your Bible study. Like, you guys go. But the thing what I would do is I would stay, like, turn all my lights off in the house. And this is back in Sri Lanka, where all the houses were pretty close by. Like, and I would just play the upright piano for hours. And soon I just started like making a tune, and that became my tune. I kept developing it, and I remember it like it was like with good memory. I don't remember much in life, but that for some reason I still remember the basics. But I kept building it over and over again, and it just got so good. And so yeah, I would spend hours playing by myself.
So do you remember the tune?
I remember. Or
can you like play it?
Yeah, I think I remember. It was like C and E, and like the 3-note apart, and it was a melody was at C, D, E, and like it was a very basic melody, but it was so beautiful. And actually,
it'd be so cool to hear.
Yeah, I wish I could. I remember the beginnings of it, because I kind of like, then I like, as I was composing, I was trying to put meaning behind it.
Yeah.
So then I was like, this is my creative. Wow. This is crazy now I'm thinking about it. Like I kind of, that piece was my creative awakening, technically. Yeah. There was a build and like a rise part where like that moment I recognized or figured out I could play. Yeah. There was a part in it. Like I would tell people like, this is my creative journey, what this looks like. And not everybody understood it, but but I remember like there was so much emotions involved into that. And I took a lot of pride. I wish I recorded it. I never recorded it. Well, actually, I think I tried to. So, yeah, and then a couple of years, around that time, my dad recognized I was creative. And so, dude got me Cubase, the DAW, where you can record music and make stuff. The only issue was, yeah, exactly.
Actually, this is Cubase that's recording audio right now.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
But there was a massive latency issue, and my dad and I, we did not recognize how to fix it. So...
Moment of silence for all those who suffer with latency issues. For all the record producers or recorders out there, it's so frustrating.
Dude, I wish... Because the guy who recommended it to us, he was a producer back home. He was doing commercial stuff. But I didn't know how to explain what was happening. And I didn't know it was latency and none of that stuff.
So now you do, but back then you're like, it's not playing right.
Right. And so I would literally record with the latency in mind.
Dude. I 100% can relate to that. Not specifically with music latency, but with video latency, because I used to do a lot of like my dad had a VHS recorder, and I don't want to interrupt you too much.
No, it's fine.
But it was the same thing where like There was no editing program that I had at the time. I had to do all of it in camera. So it's VHS. I had to press the button to start recording and then press the button to stop. And I had to memorize when I press the button, when is it actually going to start recording and when is it actually going to stop? So learning that little delay and knowing what that is so you can. But I feel like yours is a little bit more impressive if you're playing with a latency in mind the whole time. My goodness.
Latency was always on my mind. However, like some worked out and some just did not. And that was the thing that just like, nah, man, I'm done. Like I gave up. Completely.
Yeah.
Like I and the thing is like what I didn't recognize and I didn't put two and two together. Like this is what professionals use. I didn't.
Oh, okay. So you just thought this is some lame program,
right?
Whatever. It doesn't work well.
Because I mean, he even bought a mixer like with like 8 channels on it back in the day. Like,
whoa,
yeah. Like my dad spent some significant amount of money on that.
Wow.
And like I felt so bad because I really wanted to make sure it worked, and I like wrote a lot of stuff too, like with the latency as well.
Dude, do you have any of it saved?
No, dude, it's
probably all weird with the latency. I don't know.
Well, again, the computer probably isn't back home somewhere, dead as heck. Like, I mean, I've lived here for 17 years, so it doesn't.
So you are from?
Oh, Sri Lanka.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
just to be clear, that's the small island in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
In case people don't recognize that. And the beautiful Buckeye State is Ohio. For anybody who's not in our immediate friend group and from Ohio.
Yeah, we're in Cleveland, to be exact. Mm-hmm. So if y'all want to DM us and hang out or whatever, next time, hit us up.
Sunny Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah. So the next thing was, just like making music. And at that point, I knew I was creative. But yet again, for some reason, because of the culture I was living in, doing music or anything creative, even though that was available in our school, the culture was like, what the heck are you doing?
Wow. So it kind of shunned or just frowned on the whole idea.
Yeah, because I mean, you have to focus on studies and trying to become a lawyer or a doctor or some kind of thing. Yep. And you're obviously wasting time.
Yep.
So, because I question these things. I'm like, why did I think of this as this? You know, and so I realized it was just a cultural norm that was just. Like, even again, the interesting thing about this is like my parents never felt that way, never even said that to me. Like they wanted me to do studies and they wanted me to do well in studies. However, like all these things that I believed was completely outside of them. It's all culture.
Oh wow.
Yeah, culture and people pleasing and people's expectations and all that kinds of stuff. So it's crazy, like. For me to understand that even there was a point where even though I knew I was a creative, I never accepted that I was a creative or I actually had something of substance to do. So
that's interesting that you say that. I feel like a lot of people don't even recognize or like they're doing creative things and they don't even recognize that they are under the banner of creativity. Yeah. And I wonder how many people that actually like really hampers, like they don't realize they're creative. They're just doing their thing. Like you said at the beginning, problem solving. Oh, that's not that creative. Which I think is a great pivot to our next question, which is how do you know that you're creative? And like, what are the things that we can do to discover that? Like if we're not exactly sure if we're a creative, because I know there's tons of people out there that maybe they start like you where they read sight music or they sight read music and that's all they did. And
did you just say read sight music?
Read sight music, yes. Sight read, that's okay. That's why I corrected myself.
If you didn't say that, I would we just totally
read sight music. But like that's interesting that it took Drops of Jupiter to actually make you recognize that oh my goodness, I am a creative because there's so much more freedom in there. And I wonder how many people are stuck at that junction where it's like, so yeah, I've played piano for a while and I just read music and that's it. And there might be so much more that's just locked up inside of them that they don't even recognize.
I have to make a change there. I don't think I recognize myself as a creative at that point.
Even if you didn't label yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it was just like, oh, I could do this, and that was the end of it. Like,
oh, okay, you could do this.
Like, oh, I'm this creative person. None of that stuff.
Okay.
I just realized I had to backtrack here.
Yeah.
Later on, it's just, again, society-wise, it was just so hard to like understand or accept that I was a creative, or even just think a creative is a thing.
Yeah.
Or it's a thing that you are.
Yeah.
It was never even a thought. I think it was just like, okay, I'm doing this. That's it.
Yeah, and I think I'm the same way too. With all the creative things that I had, there's so many different avenues. Like I have 3 main ones, but like I feel like there's so many different little avenues that just branch off of in my creative journey. But I didn't know that those were creative. I didn't consider myself a creative either. Yeah. Like I remember my dad had a workshop when I was a kid growing up, and I would go in there and tinker around with these little boards that he had, like cutoffs and whatnot. And I made like this weird shelf looking thing one time. And that to me was, looking back at it now, it was so fulfilling. Yeah. Like, I made this thing.
Yeah.
But did I consider myself a creative or thought that I create? No, not then. Like back then I was probably around the same age, like between 10 and 15. It's just something that I didn't consider. So I also wonder societally, like you're saying, there's your section where it's like creative has no, there's no real value in life, versus now I feel like there's so many more people. It's a viable career path. Yep. And 2 is that I feel like just the ubiquity of creativity across all genres is like, it's so much more well known, especially with the internet, obviously. It's just like everybody is aware of it. So I wonder how many people, like back before technology was in our hands every single day, we're creative, and now it's just like, oh my goodness, now I can look back, like you and I are looking back, we're like, wow, we were like single digits and we were creating things, but we didn't know back then. That
exactly. And like, when you said it's a viable like way of making money, like the meme I recently saw of the YouTube CEO and then Mr. Beast comparison, how much money they make. Like the YouTube CEO makes 150,000. Mr. Beast makes millions.
Millions, yeah. It really is. I mean, within reason.
It's like if crazy. Somebody told me this, this would happen. Like when I get older, that I don't have to worry about like, studying to become something that makes money as opposed to like just be creative. Like imagine where I would be right now.
I feel the same way though.
No regrets here. It's just that's why I think you and I are very passionate about the reason we started the podcast. Is like when I got older as an adult, I started realizing so many people who are so creative just don't believe that they are.
Yeah.
And for whatever, and I just purely put it on personal experiences and circumstances and culture, whatever. That's always the reason, or somebody who told them, no, you're not a creative, whatever the point. Yep. And these people are just like, and they're worried, not worried, but they're like stuck in a job where they can't express themselves and it's not fulfilling, but they don't know another way because they went to college and had to pick a subject or stream, and then I meet so many people in our age group or even older who were like, I'm actually creative, right? I didn't realize this was what a creative person was. That's why we are doing this. That's why we're so passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about this stuff. I love reminiscing, but I want the message to get out to people who may not be or may not realize that they're creative, that may have that junction that you and I met and just kept going on that, well, this is not a viable option. And just to really ask yourself that question, is it a viable option? In today's culture, it way more possibility than it was back then. But B, even if it's not, are you going to feel fulfilled by not having that creative outlet? Like for me anyways, like I work a job that is computer, that it's not that creative. Right. And I have like started to realize as my career progresses, I'm like, I need something that allows me to be creative on a regular basis. Not where, okay, I can go to work for a paycheck and then after that I can be creative.
Yeah.
And to the point where it's like, what are my options right now?
Right.
So, and I won't go too deep into that, but just like recently I've discovered that if I'm doing my job and I take, even if it's a 15-minute break and I do something creative, my level of energy is so much higher. I'm able to be so much more focused just because I'm able to let that passion out. It's just so, I don't know. Being a creative is very unique in the fact that it needs to, I feel like people need to create in some capacity to, I guess, live their best life. And I hate using that cliche term,
Well,
but like at least feel some type of fulfillment in that route or in that vein.
Yeah, creativity is actually who you are. So the point is, now it's great if you can make a living out of it. And also it's great if you have a job that you make money out of. But if you are a creative, you absolutely must create so that you are fulfilled. Right? So you don't have to make your job a creative. That's what you and I definitely want to do. But there are people who are completely content doing their job while doing a small creative side thing, not a hustle, just a side creative process. And because I don't know what it is, like it's like when you just do something creative, when you like, for me, it's like my favorite thing is I have a laser engraver in my wood shop, and I in my living room I have these slats, like a decorative slats on the wall.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yes.
So between the slats, I've started like putting these little blocks. Whatever creative thing I make or whatever creative thing I'm passionate about in the moment, I create an image on Canva, whatever software you have, like that I want to make a statement about. Eventually, I want to make a video about. And I like engrave that graphic on this thing,
like
and
on a little block.
Yeah, and I put it on my. So far I have only 3 right now, and like when I just do that little thing, I sand it, I put some finish. I might even put some paint on it to get the whatever. Just doing that, like, fills me up. Like, first, I don't know what it is. It gives me so much. It energizes me pretty much.
Yeah.
To do something that
So
might not
much
be
energy.
as creative. Like even woodworking can get boring at times, especially when you're sanding for hours and on, and like you're making multiple things of it, like which I'm getting away from.
I really wonder if there's any creatives out there who love sanding. Like they're like, man, when I sand, that's just me.
See, I love sanding. It's just the repetitiveness. Like if I'm making one thing and I'm sanding, I'm cool. But if I'm making 10 of the same thing, I'm like, oh, come on, bro. Like,
that's what I'm saying. There's got to be somebody out there who's like, dude, let me sand. I have 4 hours of sanding. Yeah, I'll do that for you. I don't know. Maybe.
No.
It's probably few and far between, but I bet you there's a creative out there who just like,
well, yeah, because you don't have to use your brain at that point. You just have to sand and like a not mindless kind of thing.
It almost could be cathartic. Almost like, to me, lawn mowing is cathartic, where it's just this repetitive thing, just this hum, just going back and forth. Yeah. Sanding could be very similar.
I listen to podcasts when I mow the lawn. Did you ever try that?
Oh yeah, I have done that. I do that. Yeah, but I feel like that's only something that has been recent. Okay. There is something a little odd about me where I will do a lot of work without anything in my ears, not listen to music. I'm just...
Oh, yeah.
Just whatever's going on, that's what I hear. A lot of times in my workshop, I'll just be working, and like 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, I should put on a podcast or something. It's just like nothing's going on.
When it comes to woodworking, for me, like I'm like that, super silent. Sometimes I listen to classical music.
Oh, okay.
Randomly, but I have to be in a mood. But for the most part, like, I don't know, man, it's like so quiet, and it's just me and my noise.
There's something about it.
We're getting sidetracked here. What were we talking about? Yeah, so talking about how to figure out if you're a creative person. I think number one is go to the people that you trust that will make sure that they will tell you the truth. Go to them and be like, do you think I'm a creative?
That's a good start. And if they are a good friend or a good family member, they will probably ask you a question back. Something like, hey, why would you say that?
Right.
Which is probably a good indicator.
Right, exactly. No.
Or be like, I mean, what's the last thing you think that you created? You know? Maybe make you think about what you've done, what problem you solved, back to your reference. what little thing you may have made, maybe even if you scribbled something, even the whole act of doodling, which is something I used to do back when I had a boring, super boring, what was it, telemarketer job. Oh. And so I wouldn't have to dial, the dial would call. I think I was selling newspapers at the time. So again, dating myself. But I would draw the most elaborate like drawings of trees where I would just like, okay, I'm start here and I'm going to take like 5 days to make this tree. And it was just like all these tiny little lines. And even the fact, like even the little act of doodling, I think like could be an indicator that you have some type of creativity in you. I feel like that's such a simple thing to do, but there's so many people who do that who are like, no, I don't.
What were you doodling?
A tree. I used to just look at whatever picture was around. I would draw whatever angle I saw.
Yeah.
I did a lot of nature stuff. I think I have they're just like the spiral bound notebooks that I had. I would just fill those out. Yeah.
Dude, you should do a video about them. That'd be cool.
Yeah. It would be cool to do.
Yeah. You know, I used to, did you, you were homeschooled, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So when I was going to school, my late teen years, I started doodling as well in class. And my teacher didn't understand how this creative stuff works. Because for me, I was doodling to pay attention.
Yes. Dude, totally relate with that. That makes me focus on what I'm listening to.
And for some odd reason, I was... Do you know Puddle of Mud, POD? It's a rock band. Maybe you don't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So their cover art stuff was like skulls and like cool skull, like animation, not animation, cartoon type stuff.
Payable on Death or
Puddle of Mud.
Puddle of Mud.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you said POD.
No, wait. What did I say?
You said
I think it's I don't know why is that Puddle of. I think it's POD. I think
POD. Payable. Is it the Christian rock band?
No.
Okay, then it's probably.
It was a heavy metal rock band.
Okay.
Yeah, I was into a rock phase then. Anyways.
Sorry.
I'll put on the video. I'll correct it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was like so. Imagine.
Puddle of Payable? Okay.
No, I was going to say, imagine like living in freaking Sri Lanka and my teacher has zero idea about rock music.
And you're drawing these skulls?
I got into trouble so many times. I'm like, dude, like I'm trying to explain to you. I'm like, ask me any question that you just taught from anything you just taught. And he would do it and I would answer and he would still put me in trouble. He's like, you can't be doodling. Like, I'm like, what do you mean? I know the content. You just taught me this and I'm telling you.
That's too bad.
Yeah, because he was like skulls and weird stuff. But like, you know.
Which to teachers would probably be concerning back at that age.
I mean, they're probably thinking some demon stuff.
Yeah. This child is possessed. All he draws is skulls and somehow he's passing this class.
Exactly. So even if it's doodling, even if it's journaling, I mean, a writer is a creative person. A blogger is a creative person. Yep. And so the putting something from your mind into a paper or some kind of medium, that in itself is a creative thing. Mm-hmm. Writing a poem, definitely creative. Yep. Even a rapper.
Shout out to my sister. She writes poems.
That's cool. Yep. Yeah. Like even my wife Lizzie, when I first met her, she was doing graphic designing, doing calligraphy and stuff like that. And she didn't think she was a creative for some reason.
Interesting.
She's like, well, I'm just an organized person and I know how to like do this. And I'm like, no, you're a creative. Yeah. And actually that conversation is what kind of started like our relationship, our friendship actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because like we were helping each other with, she has a, she has a card business called The Lovely Letter Co. And
what is it?
The Lovely Letter Co.
Okay.
And so I was getting into CNCs and laser engraving. So I would ask her to design stuff for me and I would help her. I built her like a removable display shelf for her cards for vendor markets and stuff like that. So I design everything and I cut it on CNC so you can just put the shelves in. I'll put a picture on here. Yeah. So yeah, even she didn't think she was a creative. She just thought she was a very like organized, methodical person. And a lot of people, even to this day, when I meet them, they say like, "Oh no, I'm not a creative." I'm like, "What do you do?" Well, I do this. I'm like, "Oh,
so you are a creative." Yeah. I feel like people are probably a little bit shy, especially if you're not an established creative or you haven't really shared what you've made.
Yeah.
I feel like people can be shy about calling themselves a creative. But I really think that there are so many more creative avenues out there that you and I probably don't even know about.
No.
That people are like, that is their passion and that really fulfills them on a daily basis. And I'm sure that there are so many people who are just like you said.
This is a random question.
Losing.
Do you think fishing is creative? I've never done it.
I want to be careful for all the fishermen out there, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Because so for me,
We just like totally sidetracked.
well, that's okay. It's okay. I like this question because it's strange, but it's also like it gets you to think about it. Is fishing creative? It depends on what you're doing. If you have everything set up and you just, you do your line or whatever, and then you put your lure on it and you fish and you pull your fish out and whatever. If you eat it or you throw it back, the thing that can be creative about it is lures. People will take their time to create these lures.
I've seen
and
that.
And I feel like people who are dedicated to fishing will start getting into that.
Yeah.
And that's a great creative outlet.
I've seen those things. They're very colorful too.
colorful.
Like that's something I always thought. Like these like grown men like have these beautiful colored luminous stuff, and like they have it in a nice little container, like a case, and they open it up, and everything is nicely. I know,
it's like a sewing kit,
right?
Yeah.
Like I just think like it can be creative in that sense, and even understanding like the water and like the weather and how all of that affects. Technically, it's problem solving.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's a great question. I like asking that. Like from my perspective, from my creative
I get
outlet,
it. Yeah,
it's not something that I would find.
Just put it
in
on
creative
weight,
way. Right? Exactly. Yeah.
And you get lucky.
Yeah.
But anyways, so start with talking to somebody you trust. It doesn't have to be family members. As long as somebody you know for a fact that they'll be honest with you, start with that. Another way is also like putting something into paper, like thinking ideas and like journaling. You don't have to be a creative person to journal. Right? Just what's in your head, just start writing. And if you are a creative, you'll actually start getting a flow and like a different direction or whatever, right? You don't have to be a creative to journal. So start there. And again, I think, here's the thing. I think if you have no clue, that's where you start. But usually a creative person knows.
There's something.
There's something
there, yeah.
So just start with that for sure. For me, the other one would be like finding other creatives, like the previous episode we talked about, like me reaching out and to Ben, and it could just be like that, like, hey, I know a creative person who is in my friend circle, or even if they're not, like reaching out to them, like, hey, I admire what you do as a creative. Any chance I could just come along and create together, or we could just do something fun. Like make it very simple, and again, if people say no, you're like, all right, cool. And you go to the next person. Or you could find communities or groups, right? Like
they're all over the place.
Yeah, the one we're doing is called the Cleveland Creative Collective. And we had a retreat, like a day retreat 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that was really cool because like we had so many like diverse people, diverse creatives.
So many different types of creative people there who like the different genres or the different creative outlets that they have. Like one of them had written a book. Mm-hmm. It was a devotional, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then there was one who came out with music recently, just released a CD.
Yeah.
There's one who's doing the essential oil and stuff like that.
Yeah, essential oils. And there's another one who does a clothing line. My wife does the greeting card business. Your wife is a painter, artist. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Grace Lee.
Yes.
A live wedding artist.
Yeah, live wedding painter.
You gotta see her stuff.
GC Schlee.
Yeah, we'll definitely put all these people's Instagrams or something.
Yes, we should.
So connecting with other people, like because when we started, my wife and I, we realized like we needed each other to create.
Yeah.
So when we started, like we had so many people. So far we have like 12, 14 people right now. And the best part was we were all able to connect with each other and like understand that we have something in common.
Yeah, there's kind of like that common thread that you're just like, oh yeah, I know how you feel. I know how you feel as a creative. I know how you feel as a creative with that, A, the need to create, and B, just the fulfillment once you do create. There's just that, I feel like there's that knowledge, that twinkle in people's eyes. It's like,
yeah,
I know what you feel like, or I know what you mean when you say that you need to create.
The best part was like people were like light bulbs are going off and they wanted to say, me too.
Yeah. It is. It's really cool. And if you don't have access to a creative group or creative friends or something, you can always go to our Instagram channel and say hello. Talk about whatever you want. We've wanted some questions that people can throw in some questions.
So we definitely want to build a community here. So we would love your engagement because we're not getting paid for this right now. And the goal is not that. The goal is to be around fellow creatives. So go if you can share with us your own creative journey and your story and when you figured you were a creative. Yep. Or on the other hand, if you feel like you're one of those closeted creatives who are not sure whether you're a creative, please let us know what you're feeling, what those questions are. We would love to talk about it here, or we would love to DM back to you, or even a conversation with you and say, hey, why are you feeling this way? What happened in your life that you don't feel? Or we'd be like, actually, you're not a creative, so sorry, but just kidding.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. Have a nice life.
No, just kidding. But no, we want to honor that creative curiosity. That's important. As human beings, I think curiosity about our own selves and being retrospective about who we are and what we do, and especially as we evolve, right? I've lived 36 years on Earth, and the amount of times I've questioned my life and questioned my decisions and what I'm doing, all that stuff. It was never a bad thing because I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm doing and this is what I want to do, all that kind of stuff. So if you're one of those people too, please reach out to us. We want to help people understand whether they're a creative or not, because we believe that is who you are to be. To be.
Absolutely.
And we would like to help you reach whatever fulfillment or energize or whatever energy you can get from being just creating.
Yeah. And like you were saying about the community thing, ask some questions. We would love to discuss that on the podcast in future episodes too. We are all about answering, engaging, being part of the community, and talking about that here on this podcast, talking about it wherever, Instagram or wherever you guys find us on YouTube.
You could even do YouTube, and I think we're going to start a Patreon down the road. Should I say that now? Yeah.
You just did.
We did. Yeah. No, we want to create a community, and we want to do behind the scenes, and we also, I'll just go ahead and say it right now. We want to show you the process of us creators who technically haven't made it, make a podcast. We're doing this to be creative.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if you would like to see what the process looks like, and you can ask questions down the road, and we can discuss more topics and anything y'all want us to discuss. That's the most important thing. We would like to do what you guys want and what we want too, obviously. But
and as of right now, it's a work in progress. So we definitely want to have this where it's just this big, there's many different facets to the community that we want to not only have for ourselves as creative, but have to the audience and have to everybody else, just to be able to connect in whatever fashion and help each other become better creatives.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you're wondering why should I hang out with another creative person, let me just tell you what it feels like. It's dude, I've just done this kind of thing, nothing much. I just created this thing and it's unfinished. And then the other person whoa. That's when you hear that.
There's no feeling like that when somebody's so just in awe of what you created. But not only that, to take it a step further, you could be like, oh, and I did X, Y, Z, and it's, I don't really know. They could be like, what about?
Yeah.
And then they could make it something that you had never thought that you would ever make it. So
listen, it's like so rewarding because like you as a person, as a creative, end up growing and like you learn how to express yourself to other people. I think it also helps like social skills if you're struggling with it. Like for me especially, I think like reaching out to people, it helps because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not a weirdo.
Yeah.
I'm actually a normal person. I just haven't been around the right people.
That's true. And most people are going to be happy that you reached out. Most people are going to be, welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, I don't know if you know about this. This is this new wave of new YouTube creators who are doing cinematic storytelling. There's a new thing called, this young guys decided this thing called a creator camp. And it's only invite only. And they go somewhere and stay for a whole week. All these creators.
So cool.
And, they have like a retreat type thing and they make stuff and they whatever. But like the videos you see after that, their own, oh man.
Oh, dude.
It's
so like, how do we get invited? That's the question.
Well, I don't know.
We'll get there.
We might actually do our own thing. You never know, like, because we are doing stuff anyways, and we already have a creative group, and it doesn't have to be Cleveland, but yeah. So that's why it's important to, for sure, find other creatives because we just understand you. We just understand each other very, very, very well.
Yep, absolutely. So we are at 47 minutes, which is probably like 45, cutting out some things.
Okay, so we actually have some questions. We'll put in this the show notes that might actually help you reflect to this point. Yeah, that's all we have for now, folks.
And that's all, folks.
Yeah, thank you for joining us to the Creative Odyssey podcast. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. We really appreciate your support because we're doing something cool here and we want other people to get to know about it.
Yeah, reach out to us.
Yeah,
tell us what you think about it. Ask us any question you want.
Especially any criticism. Like, if you have any criticism, please let us know. Like, we'd love to know because we like to grow.
Yep. Awesome.
But actually, hold on.
Okay.
Until next time. Keep dreaming, keep creating, and keep exploring your own creative odyssey.
There it is. Wonderful. Thanks, Sheran. Very cool.
See y'all soon.
See you guys.